Hi guys, welcome back to Symbolic Logic Part 6. We are taking reference of Symbolic Logic 5th edition, which was written by Irving M. Copy from the University of Hawaii. So far, we have seen about what is logic, what are the types of logic, and about the first type of logic, which we call it as classical logic or Aristotelian logic, and about the two types of argument, inductive and deductive argument. Note that in classical logic, we will follow only deductive argument, and we also seen about categorical proposition and its types. So, today we will be seeing about distribution of terms and the traditional square method of opposition. Let's begin. So, in distribution of terms, we have distributed and undistributed. Let's see what is meant by distributed. A term is said to be distributed when it says something definite about all members of that category. Whereas in undistributed, a term is said to be undistributed when it does not say something definite about all members of that category. To get a better understanding, let's look into the example. All frogs are animals that eat bugs. If you see the sentence, you can identify that this sentence belongs to the A type categorical proposition, which we call it as universal affirmative. So this sentence belongs to universal affirmative. In this sentence, frogs is subject, animals that eat bugs is the predicate. This example says something about all frogs, which is the subject as I said, and it doesn't say something about all animals that eat bugs, which is the predicate. So what they are trying to say is all. The word all means it says all frogs in the frog category, whereas animals and bugs doesn't have a all, which is mean by it is not pointing out it is not pointing something definite about all members of animals or bugs. So if the if it is pointing out definitely something about all members of the category, then it belongs to distributed. If it does not say something definite about all members of that category, it belongs to undistributed. So in this example, the subject frog is distributed, whereas the predicate animals that eat bugs is undistributed. So guys, we have this distribution of terms for each propositions. Let's look into it. As I said before, we have four types of proposition: universal affirmative, universal negative, particular affirmative, and particular negative. So in A type, the subject will be distributed, whereas the predicate will be undistributed, as we seen in the example which belongs to A type. But the E type, which belongs to universal negative, the subject and predicate both will be distributed. Whereas in I type, which we call it as particular affirmative, subject and predicate both will be undistributed. If you look into the O type, the subject will be undistributed, but predicate will be distributed in particular negative. So let's go into the next topic, which we call it as traditional square method of opposition. It is the existential fallacy in square of opposition. There is an existential fallacy in square of opposition. So we have some terms, inference in this. Let's look into it. So in traditional square method of opposition, we have contrary, sub-contrary, sub-alternation, and contradictory. The issue of existential fallacy will fall in this four category. So, if you see the diagram, this AO and EI belongs to contradictory pairs, whereas AE is the contrary pair. And if you see IO, it is the subcontrary pair. And AI and EO both belongs to subalternative pair. So we have this fallacy for each type of proposition. So if you take a contradictory statements, AO, I mean AO and EI, these are the contradictory pairs. What happens is, if one is true, definitely other will be false. I mean the premise, I mean or the sentence. So, if one is false, definitely other will be true. But the both cannot be true or false. Both the pairs, both the things cannot be true or false. So, if one is undetermined, other will also be undetermined. One is lineal of others. So, they have same subject and predicate, but differing in quantity and quality. These are the characteristics of contradictory pairs or statements. So, if we look into contrary statements, which we call it as AE, this pair is the contrary one. So, this pair, it is always between universal. So, there will be only universal statements. Both cannot be true and both cannot be false. And if one is true, definitely other will be false. If one is false, other will be doubtful. Not the point. So, they have same subject and predicate but differ in quality. These are the characteristics of contrary statements or AE contrary pairs. So, let's look into sub-contrary statements. IO. This belongs to sub-contrary statements. This IO sub-contrary pair, it is always between particular. So both the sentence will be particular. Either particular affirmative or particular negative. So both cannot be false, but both can be true. And as usual, if one is false, definitely other will be true. And if one is true, other will be doubtful. They both have same subject and predicate but differ in quality. Now, these are the characteristics of sub-contrary statements. Let's look into sub-alternation statements. These at the end, AI and EO, these both the pairs are sub-alternation pairs. So these sub-alternation pairs are always between universal and particular. So, if universal true, then definitely particular will be true. If universal is false, particular will be doubtful. If particular is false, definitely universal will also be false. If particular is true and universal will be doubtful. These are the characteristics of subalternation statements. I mean AI and EO pairs. I hope this tabular column will help you to identify in which fallacy this four types of proposition fall under. So, so we have completed about the traditional square method of opposition and about the distributed and undistributed. I mean distribution of terms. In the next video, we will see what is mean by syllogism. I will introduce what is mean by syllogism.